Now I'm going to start telling some stories, and this is one where this isn't necessarily going to apply to everybody, but I have had a few people come up to me since the show started who were talking about developing a new product that would require tooling and design. Okay? Is anybody here doing anything that requires tooling and design? Just, nope? We got a couple people. All right. This would also apply, I've had people come up and say, okay, well, I want to start a new business and I'm going to import, kitchenware or home goods from China. Okay. One of the things that you need to do is remember the fact that you're specifying to the buyer. In most cases, you're going to be specifying something that's going to make your product unique. It may be that you are going, you're going to do, women's clothing, okay, and you just want to buy off the rack. But you're still maybe going to want your own label on it, your own set of colors, maybe some different prints. I like that style, but can we make it a little bit wider in the waist? Whatever the case is, okay? My advice to you is to do this, to do whatever design work there is, either do it yourself or have somebody that you're paying in your home market do it for you. Because what I've seen happen too often, there's several things that can go wrong. Number one, if you ask the factory to do the design work, then who owns the design? Under Chinese law, they have a perfectly legitimate claim that it's now their design. So if you're planning on selling a patented product and you leave half the engineering to the factory, then is it really your patented product? Chinese courts would probably say, no, it isn't. Okay? So if you're going to do an engineered product, if you're going to do a styled product, if you're going to design your own clothing line, then design your own clothing line. Don't throw it on the Chinese factory to do that. And if you're going to design an engineered product, don't ask their engineers how they would, make this part. Hire an engineer and pay the money to do that yourself. Number one, you're going to get the design database so that you can have control of it, but you're also going to have a clear path of where the intellectual property lies, and it's going to be much easier for you to file patents in China and in your home market. And by the way, you should file patents in China in your home market. If there's any intellectual property at all that you're worried about protecting, and if you're worried enough about it in South Africa to want to copyright or trademark or patent your product in South Africa, then do that in China. You have to. Because under Chinese law, which is a first-to-register system, if the Chinese supplier really likes your design, he can go to the patent office and patent it. If you haven't done so first, there's nothing stopping him from doing that. And then he basically owns you. Okay? Guangdong Circuit Board Engineering versus New York State Static Electricity. Okay, this is a real case, and it's a sad one because it ended up costing the guy his house and his marriage. Had a guy, an inventor, who had a really neat idea. It was a device to help you quit smoking. And it worked really well. And it looked great, and it was well engineered, and we worked on it, and everybody was excited. And then the first order got produced, and we shipped it out with much fanfare, and we were excited as all get out. And then I got a panic call a few days later, and they were failing in the field. He'd gotten us into a big retail chain, and they started failing in the field. And I said, I don't have a clue what's going on. There was much panicked calls. They were short-circuiting and malfunctioning, and oh my God, this is a disaster. After many back and forths, we finally get to the point where we're taking apart circuit boards and troubleshooting the design, and one of my guys who works in China, who's an electronics engineer, tore the circuit board apart, and he said, who on earth designed this? I thought that Dwight, the engineer in the U.S. who had done all the mechanical design, had designed the circuit board. No, it turns out that he didn't. It turns out that the inventor had gone directly to the factory in China and asked the factory to save money, because he was almost out of money for the development cycle, had asked the factory in China to finish the design on the circuit board because he couldn't afford to pay the U.S. engineer. Didn't tell me this, didn't tell anybody this. And so I felt like our team had failed because somehow we missed the fact that this had gone on behind our back. I mean, it wasn't really our fault, but I felt bad that we should have known somehow that this guy had gone directly to the factory and asked them to do this engineering, this final bit of engineering. Well, the problem is that an electronics factory in Guangdong province in China, where it's about 80 degrees minimum all year long and about 100% humidity half the time, doesn't know what static electricity is like in upstate New York in the dead of winter. so that when you put this thing in your pocket and you're walking around and it's 20 degrees, well, you all use Celsius, so it's 10 degrees below 0 Celsius, and it's dry as a bone. When you're walking around and you've got a pocket full of change, it builds up static electricity in your pocket and it overwhelmed the capacitor and fried the circuit board. Okay? Now, should the factory in Guangdong have known that? Probably. If they'd gone to an engineering school in the United States, they sure should, but they didn't. And why this guy thought he was saving, he saved about $1,000 on the design. That was it. And it train wrecked his entire life. So don't get cheap on design. If this is going to be how you're going to get rich, okay, this is the product line that's going to make you a millionaire, $1,000 the deciding point? I mean, seriously. This is the design for your product. Finish it. Do it right. And don't rely on the Chinese supplier.